What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with yet another price video, this time focus on mint on card action figures. Everything from early card backs all the way through to the Droids line. We've even got a Size from clear blister, as you can see in the thumbnail for this video. Lots of really good items. And as always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/actionfiguregrader is where you can go to sign up for 24 hours early access to my videos. The first one we've got is a 12-back B Death Squad Commander graded AFA 75. Really nice looking item here. 75, 75, 85 were the sub-scores on that one. That one sold for $886.90. That seems to be kind of in line with some of the recent data points we've seen for this 12-back B Death Squad Commander. There was an AFA 80 that I found that sold a couple of months ago for, I want to say it was almost $1,100. So to get the 75 grade for, quite a bit less than that, pretty deep discount to go from an 80 back down to a 75. So pretty good price. Next up was a 12-back C AFA 75 plus ObiWan Kenobi. And here are the sub scores on that: 75, 80, 80 for the 12-back C Obi-Wan. Nice looking example there. It is punched, but it had no price sticker on it. Nice crystal clear blister. Obi-Wans on those early 12-backs can be pretty pricey, and this one certainly was as well. $1,477. Free shipping on that one. It looks to be freshly graded, so nice example. Next up, this is one that was sold by Lumat2, who I bought my 32B Bosk from. Was really happy with this seller. We've communicated after the fact. He watches the channel, so congrats on this sale. I really wanted to buy this so bad, Lumat. This was a beautiful unpunched die-cast TIE Fighter, mint on card, beautiful blister on it. It looked to be in fantastic shape overall. Just a really nice example. Probably an overall 80 at least, just given the condition of it. Unpunched with the small Child World price sticker of $3.99. That one sold for 610 Australian dollars, which equates to 424 US dollars plus shipping. There was one that I think I documented fairly recently that was the exact same item and in very similar condition, actually, that sold for 375 here in the US, but it was a punched example. So this unpunched example, I thought, sold right on the money. You got to pay, about a $50 premium versus that punched example, but both were kind of 80 plus condition. But 610 Australian dollars took that one home. Next up was a yellowed 85 Meccano rectangle card Jawa. This is the most common character on this card back. Pretty easy to find this one. It doesn't look yellowed in the photos, but according to the UKG label, it was a slightly yellowed blister. These can turn very, very yellow, and those blisters are very fragile, so keep that in mind. But it was a yellowed 85. And the sub scores were straight 85. So really nice example of that 20 back from 1979. That one sold for 415 pounds, which is about 506 US dollars. Can't beat that price. That's a really good price for just a slightly yellowed blister. And you're not going to see it for that kind of price even on Facebook sometimes. So I think that was a pretty good buy there and well worth the money. This was an interesting one. This was only a CAS 70 plus, but it's an Empire Strikes Back Canadian Luke Farm Boy. How difficult is it to find these? Very, very tough. You can see the Laga des Etoiles on the back of that card back there. It's being hidden by the statement of archival, but very clearly the 32 back Canadian Luke Skywalker. The subgrades were nice too. Just the card of 70 brought it all the way down to an overall 70, but the blister and figure scores were 85. So pretty harshly graded, but that's what happens sometimes when one sub-score is significantly lower than the other two sub-scores. If it's a really bad 70, so to speak, it might keep the score, at the lowest sub-score on that item. So that's what happened here on this one. 70 grade overall, but it was listed for 2,300 US dollars. The best offer that was accepted was 1,800 US dollars, but a very, very tough one to find. And, in high grade, let's say this was a CAS 80. You can probably count on $2,500 to $3,000 would be my rough guess on a price. But what do I know? These things just come up so infrequently that it's just hard to price it out. But This one did sell for $1,800, but you're going to be well into the 2000s on a higher grade. So nice looking example. Got a couple of different Luke Skywalker Bespin fatigues that sold. This one had some litho damage in the upper right hand corner, but it was unpunched with the free 4-line offer. So this is the 47 back. It was a yellow blister, but it had kind of the mustard brown hair. As you can see there, it's hard to tell because of the yellowing of the blister, but it could just be the straight brown hair Hong Kong. That one sold for $7.99. One bid on that one, plus $11 shipping. And then this was another yellowed blister, Return of the Jedi, 77 back, with, again, the brown hair on that Luke Bespin. That one sold for $265 at an auction on 46 bids, plus $8 shipping. Next up was a pallet toy Chewbacca, 65 back. Pretty nice looking example. The blister had yellowed just a little bit. It had some very slight dings to the blister. The front had kind of caved in just a little bit, which does happen sometimes. Very light litho wear and tear around the edges and at the top. You can see some more wear on the right-hand side of the blister. But beautiful pallet toy example. That one sold for 310 pounds, which equates to about $380 US. So, that blister really is in pretty great shape. These pallet toy oversized blisters, as well as the ones on the tri-logos, tough to keep those in mint condition. But this is a pretty good example. Just slight yellowing is the only problem on that one. But still, $378 for that's pretty good buy. Next up was that yellowed Taiwan UKG 80% Princess Leia Bush. And again, it was an overall 80 yellowed blister, 80, 85, 80 were the subscores. Yeah, I find it to be a little bit tougher to find the Taiwan Bush mint on card. It doesn't pop up that much. It's usually either the Hong Kong or like a no CO on a pallet toy card. But this one was a nice example, and I thought it was priced right on the money. And I said in my What to Buy video that, if you can pick it up for right around the starting bid price, which I believe was $220, not a bad price. And it ended up selling for $230 on 2 bids, which is a $280 US. Side note for those of you who are out there looking, if you guys see a near mint plus condition tri-logo Bush, I'm really looking for one. I put a couple of what, would like to buy posts or in search of posts, both in the Facebook tri-logo group as well as on Deal or No Deal, but no hits on that. And that's one I would like to pick up this year is a tri-logo Bush. That's kind of on my very short list right now to try and find that one. So if anyone sees one, please message me or tag me on it on Facebook if it's on Facebook. But that's one I definitely would like to have. I'm looking for one it doesn't have to be graded, but ideally if it is graded, it's an overall 80 or higher. UKG, CAS, AFA, I don't particularly care. I don't care if it's punched or unpunched. But if anyone sees one, please tag me on it because I really am trying to find one of those this year. This was an interesting one. I didn't know what to make of this one, but it sold very quickly. I was so tempted by it. And that's a Return of the Jedi IG-88 with a clear blister, which is a little bit tougher to find. This was the 65 back B. But the reason I hesitated on it is if you look in the upper right-hand corner, at certain angles, there's one angle where it shows a little bit, I couldn't tell if it was like just a sticker residue or if it had been touched up. And I'm see if I can find it right here. So you can see right here, there it is. So right here, you can see where the price sticker was on it, but around it, it has like either ink or it had been kind of touched up on it. And so me personally, I don't think it's ink touch up because it's just too perfectly straight. But I think my concern is that somebody might have marked through it on when they were doing like a sale on the original price tag, and when they scratched through the old price using a marker, that bled into the card back. And I don't know how the grading companies treat that, whether they would treat that as ink touch-up or ink modification, and it would be precluded from grading or not. But that was the only flaw I found on it. The blister was in fantastic condition. It was unpunched, clear blister. I mean, the card is just immaculate. It's just that one spot right there that concerned me enough. I was like, well, I collect graded, and I don't know how that would be perceived by the grading companies. But it didn't stop somebody from buying it. It was listed for $350 free shipping. I think that's a bargain. I mean, assuming that either you don't care about grading and you're just going to display it, or if it does meet the grading standards with any of the grading companies, and you do end up grading it. I bet it grades an 80 plus or an 85 is the likely guess. But I couldn't justify it just because I was worried about that, and it sold within 30 minutes or so. So somebody got a really nice deal, but it's a beautiful example of the IG-88 on the Return of the Jedi card back with a nice looking clear blister. Next up, this price really surprised me. I didn't know what was going on with it, but this is a yellowed 85% punched example of the 77 back US release for Darth Vader. Now, it was only very light yellowing, okay? But it was a yellowed 85, and it had very high sub scores with UKG, 85, 85, 90. So about as good as you're going to get, right? Because all of these 77 and, later card backs from Kenner, they're all going to yellow eventually anyway. But it did have very light yellowing. But the price was just really surprising. 1,020 pounds, which equates to $1,245 US dollars plus shipping. And if you bought that in the US, you're talking $1,300. And that just seems like a really, really high price to me. And probably close to double what I'd be willing to pay for it. But it was a nice looking example, but just way too high from my pocketbook. But a nice looking 77 back. Next up was a Yoda Jedi Master, and it did sell. It was best offer accepted. It was listed for 480 pounds, or 585 US dollars. But the best offer that was accepted was 380 pounds. But at first blush, you're like, wow, that's a great deal on a clear blister Return of the Jedi Yoda. But unfortunately, it did have a crack at the bottom of the blister right here. You can see where it's cracked. So that's why it sold so cheap. But, again, if you're on a budget and you do collect mint on cards, I'm not saying it's cheap because you're still talking, probably about 450 US dollars or so. So it's not insignificant. But it certainly would display really nicely. And for one that's not cracked with a clear blister, you're probably easily double that price. So it's a good affordable way to kind of get some of these mint on cards. If you can live with the crack or risk, rolling the dice that it won't crack further in shipping, then that's a nice option. But I did want to show it because you don't find those clear blister Yodas too much on those US Return of the Jedi card backs. But it's unfortunate that it did crack, but that's why it sold where it did. Next up is Wicket W. Warwick, heavily yellowed blister, but it's unpunched. And this one was the Canadian card back. So really nice. And here's the back of it. La Guerre des Étoiles, as you can see at the very top there on the back of the card back. So it's got the French language on there. That one sold for $255 and change plus $20 shipping, 20 bids in an auction. And the same seller had the Paploo. This one is the 79 back. The 79, I can't remember which one it is, B or C, but it's got the Anakin offer on the right-hand side at the lower corner. But this is the made in Mexico. All Paploos and Lumats are made in Mexico, so that's why that blister stays nice and clear. That one sold for $165.50. I thought that was a really good buy for kind of an 80 grade Paploo. The same seller also had the Canadian Princess Leia in her combat poncho. Heavily yellowed blister, but it was unpunched. That sold for $164.50. Again, another pretty good price there if you can live with the yellowing on the blister. Next up was an EV99. This one was graded a very high AFA 85. Obviously, it was a yellowed blister, but straight 85s for the sub-score, unpunched. Beautiful example. That one sold for $900. Only one bid on that one, but $900 plus $10.85 shipping took that one home. Finally, let's finish off with a couple of Droids mint on cards. The first one is Jan Tosh. It looked to be in very clean condition with an unpunched yellowed blister. And that one sold for $355 on 9 bids. But the big one, this was the big one, an unpunched Sice From clear blister. How beautiful is that? And as Blacked Out Ewoks from YouTube has pointed out, these were made in Mexico. So if you can see somewhere on here, it says made in Mexico, I believe. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see at the very bottom there, below that UPC code, it says figure made in Mexico. So it's got that matte finish to the back, which is common for Lily Letty's. It's not a very glossy back to those. It's the same with Paploo and Lumat and all those. But how beautiful is that? A beautiful, beautiful example. And $2,100 took that one home. So big price on Sice From. Given that loose graded now, I mean, they're approaching $1,000 loose graded now. So to get that mint on card, I guess that's about market these days. I don't know. But pretty incredible to see that one. And it did not last long. It sold very, very quickly on eBay. That's all I really had for this video. Thank you as always for watching. And I'll be back soon.